What's up everyone, it's Dakota and welcome back to another modern video, and today we're going to be taking a look at a deck that I played this past weekend in the Manatraders series. Unfortunately, the overall record not being what we desired, but the start was really good, and if I had to make a choice, I'd probably play like the same deck again, maybe just tweak the sideboard a little bit more. So what you're looking at currently is 4-color creativity. I essentially took the deck from Lord Beerus is their name on Moto, and I made a few tweaks to the deck, mainly just the sideboard. I swapped out a Boseiju for a Sarah's Emissary. Um, so essentially, like the 4-color creativity deck, for those that don't know, it's essentially based around the card Indomitable Creativity. You can destroy X target artifacts and or creatures, and for each permanent destroy this way, you reveal cards from top of your library until you reveal an artifact or a creature card, and you exile those cards, and then those players that exile cards put them on the battlefield and shuffle their libraries. So essentially what you're trying to set up is playing a bunch of mountains and playing a Dwarven Mine, whether you fetch for it or just get to play it. And if you control three or more other mountains, it comes to play untapped, and when it comes to play untapped, it makes a 1/1. So essentially, this is like a way that, like, on turn 4, you play a Dwarven Mine, you have something to destroy with Indomitable Creativity to then put an Archon of Cruelty, which is a cruel ultimatum on a body. And this essentially can like end the game if your opponent just does not have an answer for it. And if this thing gets to attack and then they're able to get rid of it, then you've generated like a ton of value off of it. So how does this deck get to enact that game plan? Because you can see here that we also run a persist package of being able to discard with like Bitter Reunion, the 4 Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and then the 3 Pismari Command to get these like archons into play if they end up in your hand. One thing that I also learned when like playing the deck through the Swiss, that it is totally viable for you to cast this Archon of Cruelty just straight up from your hand, from getting to make treasure tokens from Prismari Command, and well, when you attack with the 2/2 Goblin that Fable the Mirror Breaker makes. Um, the rest of the cards, you have like these Ren and Sixes, which essentially ensure that you hit land drops. They can grab back fetch lands, which can find Dwarven Mines, which can then obviously make Indomitable Creativity live. You have Lightning Bolt, Spell Pierce, 4 copies of each, and Leyline Binding. Essentially, is like your 1 mana interaction, where like a lot of times you want to like fetch up a Rogren Triome, which is the Jeskai Triome, and then follow it up with like a Stomping Ground if you want to go into Ren 6. If you just want like a 1 mana Leyline Binding, you can go and fetch the Zayator's Proving Ground, the Gem Triome, and essentially you have like Spell Pierce, Bolt, and Leyline Binding available to you, all for 1 mana. And then from there, like, your mana is essentially pretty perfect. So like another fetch land, or even like drawing any one of your other shock lands, is going to give you the just about any color that you need to be able to cast any of these other spells. The mana base being like a few different triomes. You have the Ketria Triome, which is the Temur Triome, Rogern Triome, which is just said was a Jeskai Triome, and then the Zayator's Proving Ground as your main, tri lands that you can fetch up on like turn 1. Rogern Triome being probably the most important, just because again it casts a lot of like your 1 mana early interaction spells and follows up nicely with like your 2 mana spells. Obviously, Persist not being like the very best one, but you're more than likely not casting it on turn 2 unless your opponent like makes you discard an Archon of Cruelty, which is very nice of them. You just have like Arid Mesas, you have Scalding Tarns, and Wooded Foothills as like your main fetch lands, and then you have one of Steam Vents, Stomping Grounds, Sacred Foundry, and Blood Crypt as like your ways of getting mountains in the deck, but then also getting like these different land types for Leyline Binding. The sideboard was basically geared towards like beating the mirror, and then also like against some other interactive decks, like as you can see with like Veil of Summer, Flusterstorms, problematic artifacts like the dumb Unlicensed Hearst and Grafdigger's Cage and things like that, where Terra could deal with those on top of getting to deal with the other like Leyline of the Voids and stuff like that on the other half. Hollowed Moonlight for like Dredge and other decks, which I'm surprised that like there wasn't really many living end decks. Like I never played against a living end deck, and Hollowed Moonlight is pretty good against them just because it blanks essentially a living end from them. And if they just decide to like click through and go with it, whatever, then you can just kind of get people with it. Leyline and Sanctity also pretty good like in the mirror because the Archons like do target, so this could protect you from it. Was also really good in the burn matchup that I played in, and pretty good against like the mono red. Although obviously it wasn't as good as like the burn matchup, but pretty good all the same. Emrakul, I've been boarding wrong. I just like bring it in as like an extra hit off of the Indomitable Creativity, and I guess people would just use it as like the only creativity hit, which is insane to me. And then like just ditching the persist, like better reunion package and stuff. But realistically, I was fine with like bringing it in when I had Archons as well, just as a way like if they managed to like get rid of all your Archons, deal with them, so on, like you still had a target in the deck. One Beseiju, just a uncounterable way of getting to deal with, any one of the problematic things that like wear tear would be able to deal with. Um, so that is the deck that I played. Reasons why I played it, because I went over it in the stream that I did, and unfortunately the stream did not take very kindly to it because it didn't record any of my audio through like my first match. Essentially, I really like the four color deck going into just like an open meta, and especially having like open deck lists because I felt like Spell Pierce, Lightning Bolt, and Leyline Binding were going to be super clutch, like one mana interaction. Spell Pierce just like being one mana and just being just enough of like a hindrance to most decks to where like if they try to kill like your creature in response or whatever, like just being able to leave up Spell Pierce is like pretty easy, and also just going to play just slightly more disciplined and kind of set yourself up for like a bigger Indomitable Creativity. Lightning Bolt getting to deal with like the different Ragavan decks and like the you know uh, non-countered bird people because I can't remember Ledger Shredder until right now. The monkeys, the birds, and of course like Dragon Rage Channeler. Also like some of the other like a few of like the creatures from the 4 and 5 color like domain decks and things like that. Just has like really good utility. And then essentially whatever Lightning Bolt doesn't clean up, like Leyline Binding, will hit as well. Getting to deal with like problematic Planeswalkers, getting to deal with opposing Archons and Cruelties, and like other creatures that the deck is going to have a hard time dealing with. On top of that, just like getting decently fast kills with this deck. I mean, just like if your opponent taps out to do something and you just go to like turn 4 creativity, like more than likely you get rid of their threat, you get a card out of their hand, and you're just like putting pressure on them to draw an answer because the Arcana Cruelty will just kind of take over. Of course, you also have like this backup plan where like if you just draw an Arcana Cruelty, it's just not stone cold dead in your hand until you get 8 mana. You do have like these different spells to ditch them and then like on the same turn like persist it back and then be able to leave up like a Spell Pierce or like a Leyline Binding for an opposing Leyline Binding and things like that. So overall, I was happy with my deck choice. I was 4-1 through 5 rounds, and then we definitely fell off the wagon, ending up going 4-4. Didn't really want to play the last match at that point. But overall, like I was super happy with my choices. I think I definitely, at spots, could have played better, but at the same time, like we made some really good plays. We made a really good run. It looked good, and then we just ran into some rough matchups and just couldn't end up getting it done, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. Like for essentially picking up this deck relatively later. I mean, like I started playing the four color creativity deck like a few days before the event, and the fact that I was like 4-1 at one point, was, I mean, made me feel great, honestly, just because I made a call. I was relatively happy with it. Like my testing didn't go the way that I wanted to, but I was willing to kind of stay true to it and try to play the deck and do the best that I can. And honestly, like while I felt like I could have played better, I also felt like I played really, really well. And like I've been saying, I would not have made a different decision. And going forward, I would implore people to like if they're going to play this deck, definitely being patient, not trying to go for it right away, even though it's like cool, flashy, like turn 4, put an Archon into play. But sometimes you want to wait to either leave up some disruption for it or, even just get like another Archon out of it, because like really a lot of the times where I put two into play, the game was just over. Like it just stone cold. Like my opponent just had no chance of getting back in the game. So um, there will definitely be a sort of intro guide to this deck that I'll be doing later in the week. While this is like sort of kind of like a deck tech for it, it's not normally in the format that I would do it, but this is a deck that I now have like a decent amount of experience with. I've probably played like 15 or 20 matches with the deck. I'm by no means like an expert of playing four color creativity or whatnot, but there's definitely a lot that I've learned and a lot that I think people should know, like before they pick up the deck, or if they're already currently playing it, maybe some things to be aware of, that you might not have been aware of. And that's kind of the point of like videos like this and some of the other like intro guides and stuff that I post, is to bring awareness to people, like, and it's things that as a player, like if you're not playing the deck but you're going to play against it, knowing what your opponent wants to know or whatnot is a good thing to know, and something that you can utilize to better your matchups. And if you're the person playing said deck, definitely some things that you can take, to playtest, play online, whatever, and just kind of work on those sort of like fundamentals and some of those lessons and stuff like that. And then eventually just kind of like branching out and being able to make your own decisions and just get to where you want to be as like a player and a pilot playing certain decks. So definitely be on the lookout for a four color creativity slash creativity guide. I have two lists that I really liked playing. I think both of them have their benefits, so I'm gonna like briefly go over both of them in that video. So be on the lookout for that. And that's gonna do it for this video. Um, Again, TLDR, like Manatraders series didn't end up going the way that we wanted to. It didn't end that well, but we had a strong start. The deck was great, honestly. Just opponents ran hot. Like I started to run cold. Things happen. It's magic, unfortunately, when you're on the losing side of it. So that's gonna do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Of course, if you did, please leave a like on the video and please subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 100 plus subscribers from where I started just over a year ago, or not even like a year ago, which is like insane, the amount of support on like these videos, and I really do appreciate it. It's awesome, and I love being able to help people. I've gotten a few comments from people saying that like some of the guides have helped, and interesting topics and stuff like that. And I got a few videos planned that I really want to get done and hopefully get posted within the next week or two. So of course be on the lookout for those, and you will know if you subscribe and ring the notification bell, stuff like that. So that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next one.